Hello, folks. I'm here. How you doing? So, looks like today we've got Rich Hilton and Steve Hillier. And we're looking at this Swan thing as well as many other topics. And I thought I'd play you a little bit of... I had a bit of ambient noodling, which I used to test out the whole Swan file sharing thing. So I'll play that just to sort of kick things off a little bit. Hello, everybody. That was just a bit of a taster and a way for me to demonstrate the new Swan.audio file sharing thing, which we'll be talking about today. But that was a track that I was doing just sort of from some ambient noodles with some Ableton Live racks that we're going to be releasing soon, I hope, which allow you to freeze reverbs and create some of those textures with that. And there was a monosynth and also a wave junction as well. So, yeah, very mellow and chilled, I must say, which is nice. Felt a bit like that today. A bit of a sad day today. Had to have the family cat put to sleep because it had a fairly, well, an incurable cancerous growth, which is a bit of a shame. But I had to take it up, and I was just holding it when they put the injection in. God, that was sad. I thought I could hold it together, but geez, that's really, it's a bit of a horrible. Anyway, so that's how I'm feeling a little bit. I didn't just do that today when I got back. It's been a little while. I've just been messing around with EQs because I know it's got massive bottom end, but I was a bit worried about the mids in there. So anyway, yeah, I saw Fel Muso in the chat room. Your Series 3's finally left the building. Yeah, I saw a post on that. I'm glad we managed to get a little bit of time. If you haven't seen that, that's the Fairlight special we did with Rob Porcelli. And you can hear a lot of the sounds and all of that sort of thing. So Cat was 9 years old, but it was getting to the point where, I mean, it was only going to get a lot worse and messy and horrible. I won't go into the details, but it's kind of, it's that point at which that happens. Hey, we have a Mr. Steve Hillier.
Hello, Nick.
Hello. How are you?
Are you okay?
Good. Haven't seen you for a while. Videos looking good.
Yeah. I've been all over Europe and various other bits and pieces. But I'm back now, and I've come back with a nice German head cold. So
nice.
I've been told
you
something
can't special about
kind
that.
Of viruses.
Do you cough,
yeah, that's right.
Do you cough with a certain kind of accent?
Yeah. There's definitely a sense of purpose to this cold. I just wanted to check. Can you? Is this transmitting okay? Because I know the last few times I've done this, I had a, I don't know, just some issues basically.
Seems to be okay at the moment. Yeah.
Okay.
Seems to be all right.
I got a new MacBook Pro here, which, well, it's just been doing positive things in my life, and looks like this is another one. So that's good. If it can cure a cold, then that'll be it. I'll be sorted.
That would just be awesome, wouldn't it? You could have everything. Just cure everything.
I think that would be the greatest innovation Apple's ever come across, curing the common cold, including the German variety. So that'd be nice.
Excellent. Well, lovely to have you here. We're just waiting for Rich to show up, and then we'll be good to go. So yeah, I don't know if you've seen. There's the Swan audio thing that I was talking about, and I used it to share a track with Chicky, actually, Charles Chicky Reeves, because he's been playing some of my stuff before the OMD gigs, so I wanted him to try this out to see how it sounded on a massive PA, and he.
What did he say?
He did, but sadly, I think they had a PA go down on them. Like one, I think it was Glasgow, the OMD gig. So I'm hoping it wasn't the excessive bass in this track that that rattled it out. But
you never know.
Well,
I saw he's in the Sage at Gateshead tonight, which is a fantastic venue. I don't know if you've ever been there.
No, I haven't. No, I've never. I don't think I've ever been to Gateshead, actually.
I'd recommend it, especially if you spend most of your time in Newcastle, which is just across the river.
Okay.
The venue, the venue itself is like a huge glass sort of representation of a ship, really, and the sort of moldings on the outside of the building are like they sort of follow the contours of the Time Bridge and also the Millennial Bridge. So it just looks kind of beautiful.
That's strange. Sounds like you've got a fly stuck in your microphone.
That's not good, is it?
No, it didn't sound like it was. It sounded like an actual physical thing happening in your room. Sort of.
Yeah, I did hear a bit of a buzzing there as well. Hopefully that's not going to happen again. There is some building work going on somewhere in Brighton, so it's kind of
at any one time. That's bound to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Exactly. The Sage and Gateshead is really good, and so hopefully they'll sort out you won't be breaking any more PAs. And
no.
It will sound really good in that, I'm sure.
I'm sure it wasn't. Right. Okay. Sorry, I'm getting communication. We had a bit of a family. Our cat had to be put down this afternoon, and it was this morning, and it was my job to take it up there. And I thought I'd be a man and kind of hold it while it happened. And God, it's so distressing.
Oh man.
I thought I was able to. I thought, yeah, I'll be fine, and I blubbed like a child. It was, yeah, it was.
Oh, I'm so
very,
sorry.
very sad. Well, you know, these things happen. It got ill, and it's the sort of thing that if we left it much longer, it would have just got really unpleasant and been, you know, it was like a cancer, and it was there. Wouldn't have been very nice.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, well, ordinarily I would say, yeah, well, you know, it wasn't too bad, but it was the actual being there, the moment, you know, that was kind of like, oh God, that's heartbreaking, you know. Anyway,
yeah.
And hopefully,
I've never had to do that myself, but I've you know, I've had a succession of pets through my. It's always, you know, heartbreaking.
Yeah, no, it is. Well, it's kind of more for my daughter and, you know, what have you. It just didn't really want to see it kind of dragging itself around the house, kind of getting it all at worse. I think that would have been terrible. But you always sort of feel responsible because you have to say, yeah, okay, do it, don't you? So it's kind of it's like, yeah, would it have got? But it was definitely terminal, so it wouldn't have actually. There wouldn't have been any chance of a reprieve. So yeah. Anyway,
I'm sorry, Nick.
Yeah, well, you know, it's more the experience itself. The actual moment is quite intense. They're very good though. So yeah, I've got a big hole in the lawn now. You know, we're creating a pet cemetery gradually, but over the decades in our tiny little back garden. It's like, I'm really worried. Well, I should probably make a map because at some point there's going to be a kind of internment accidentally, I expect. So
yeah. If you come to sell, there might be questions, and it might be nice to know. You know, I'll be able to say, you know, if you just look around there, you might find something. So,
like, you have to plot the pipe work and the water mains and stuff. Yeah, for the planners. Yeah. Ah, right. Okay, so yeah, we're just waiting for Rich. Actually, we're a bit early, so it's all right. So not a problem. So you've been gallivanting off all over the place, then? That sounds good.
Yeah, no, it's been. I mean, I came back from a little party down in a place called Jornsdorf, which is on the German, Czech, and Polish border down in the southeast, which was great fun. Very cold out there at this time of year. Yeah, but that was fun, and I wasn't actually working at that. It was a friend's birthday party. They've been living down there for a long time. They're from Britain, but they've made a real home for themselves in what used to be a spa town for Germany. So it's got a very particular kind of atmosphere to it.
Yeah,
if you can imagine.
You're Steve. You're starting to kind of do that stutter thing. I'm wondering if there's I'm wondering what that can be. I think, I mean, part of the problem is when you're on Wi-Fi, you just get all these, you get packet breakup and stuff. So it's just one of those things that can happen.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think what I'm going to do, given the amount of time that we have, is rather than be up here in my studio, I'm going to move closer to the router and see if that does anything.
Okay.
So
that's fine. Yeah. Go for it.
If you just bear with me, I'll close down this this call and we'll come back to it.
All right, no problem. We get those technicals sorted out. Okay. Lots of people in the chat room. Only you can hear the noise we can. Okay, right. I think we're probably there's a little bit of a delay on the feed because some of the comments are coming in a bit behind the times. We've got our YouTube chatties. Hello, everybody out there. And also our IRC chatties. Nice to see you all. What do we got? Let's see. We've got a decent number. How many have we got? Nearly 300 people. Awesome. Always nice to see a healthy crowd. Adds to the frisson and the excitement of the event. Just trying to think what else we can do. It's only 10 minutes, isn't it? So yeah, I don't know what the delay is like. If I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 17, 18, 19 seconds delay. It looks like we got. Okay. It's good to know. Not that it makes any difference. Hey, Rich, how are you? You're muted or silent. I seem to have everything happening this end. So, and I've just tested this with Steve Hillier. So I'm assuming. Okay, be right back. BRB, as they say in teenage text speak. Okay. So what's been happening? I don't know if you haven't checked out. We've got Gaz has been looking, or is going to be looking at the Trace Elliott Elf, this tiny little, I think it's 150 watts or 200 watt power amp, and what was it called? It's a something B. I've forgotten now. Anyway, a couple of those coming up. He's also looking at the Roland DO5 Boutique. I've been looking at the Roland SH01A, which I have to say, quite like the sound of. You know, it's interesting actually reviewing a synth. It hasn't got any onboard effects, so I've been sorry, there was a attack. A bot voice. Please buy your copy of Microtonic is really annoying. I don't know what that means. Yeah, so it's weird reviewing something which doesn't have any effects on it, because it actually makes it much harder to review, because you know, we're all used to hearing things affected up, so it's kind of tough. Ah, there we go. There's Mr. Rich Hilton. I can hear him.
I had accidentally booted it into Safari, which appeared to be working until you had no audio, and I didn't feel like troubleshooting it.
No, fair enough. I think what's actually happened is the new latest updates. The Safari now uses a different setup, so we can now use this. That's why this is able to be used on iOS 11 using Safari on some devices as well. So it does give us that opportunity. Yeah, I can
do this on my iPad.
You could potentially, yeah, absolutely. Okay. Although you wouldn't have your mic. I'm just
not
waiting.
This mic, no.
No.
Well,
Steve,
I actually could. I could.
You could. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I have an Apogee 1. I could use as the input to the iPad.
Wouldn't sound as good as your mellifluous tones through that nice big diaphragm.
It'll sound good. It'll sound really good. It's an Apogee. It's actually very good sounding. Yeah, I use it on stage occasionally for sample playback.
Ah,
a rare instance that I need to do that.
Right, gotcha.
One shots, not tracks. One shots.
One shots. Excellent.
Make no mistake.
So we're just waiting for Steve. Steve Hillier has just gone downstairs to be near his Wi-Fi, because we're trying to troubleshoot, because his system, he's always a bit kind of jittery, and I think it's because it's at the top of the house and the Wi-Fi is just not up to quite that range with video streaming, sadly.
I've noticed that he does have some interruption issues during the broadcasts.
Yeah, definitely.
And I always at a moment when I really want to hear what he's saying.
I know it is, isn't it? It's usually right at that point where he's just about to drop the bomb, and it's kind of
and all of a sudden it's like,
yeah, I know. Oh, we've got Gaz.
What did he say?
Gaz did show up. Hey, how are you, Gaz?
Yeah, I just finished. Yeah, I just literally finished my session. My client just left. So
I didn't want to. I should have added that. You know, if you want, you know, you don't have to kind of jump.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's interesting subjects again this week.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it's cool.
Can you give me a little bit more level on your mic?
Yeah. Okay, it's up quite a lot, but more. How's that? Is that better?
That's better.
A bit
just
more?
gives me a bit of headroom.
More.
No,
hello.
Too much.
Too much.
You've just gone too far.
I always go too far. You know me.
Gain addict.
You've gone too far.
Right. So I think we have a full foursome this week, which would be cracking. Steve's just gone downstairs to try his Wi-Fi closer to the router, because we were getting that kind of issue with you know.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I thought you said he wanted to be closer to his wife.
Well, maybe both. Entirely possible. Right. So yeah, there we go.
I better look at the topic, the show notes.
Yeah, well, you know, don't break the illusion, Gaz. So your camera really does look loads better since you set it up there. Really does.
Yeah. Oh,
way
cool.
better. I'm jealous now, and I've got a bloody HD camera here, and I just always look yellow and red. Maybe I haven't got enough light. I did try. I could try
Actually, I have got if mine's a bit bright, I have got this thing here. If I put this on,
that's good too.
Now you look like Nick.
So our skin tones matching. No, that's really weird. I look a bit like a kind of it either goes green.
Is that too dark now?
No, that's fine. Let's try you in full screen mode. Nope, looks fine. Look at that. Skin tones and everything. Whereas I look a little bit like maybe a zombie or a jaundiced individual. Seem to break. That's better. I just go white and red rather than yellow and red. Hey, well, we'll try that one. No, I don't like that. Oh well, that'll do. Okay, so we have Steve. Let's just see how that's doing. Hey, Steve, how are you? He's just setting up his audio. It's an interesting shot. It looks like he's got a giant wire poking out the top of his head.
Hi, Steve.
How you doing, Steve?
He's not hearing you.
He's not there yet. Okay, well, we'll just we'll go back to we'll try a twos up, and we can see what he's doing in there. But and then he can give me the thumbs up when he's joined us. Hey, Steve, can you hear us?
Hello. Yeah, that's me. Okay.
That seems to be. Yeah, I can hear you. Okay. I think so. You have to talk.
Yeah, okay, I'll talk. I'm about as close to my router as I can possibly be, quite frankly. I'll get a nice suntan at this rate, I reckon.
Okay, well, we'll try that one. Thanks for that. That's great.
No problem.
Okay, well, I think we can probably aim for a go. I'm going to see if I can decipher the YouTube, the new Facebook interface, because the Facebook interface is just... It's got another step in between when you go live and going live, and I didn't see that last week, so I missed the live stream on Facebook. Anyway, let's get started. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Sonic Talk episode 514, broadcasting today live Wednesday the 22nd of November 2017. Yeah, 514, isn't it? More than 1,000, although getting to 1,000 might require some sort of means of life support for me, I think, because that's I think I'll be all right. Actually, I know it's about 8 years. I think I might have got that in there. I think we'll be all right. Anyway, welcome everybody, and this is the Music and Technology podcast. We talk about all things to do with music technology, surrounding the kind of world of it, and software, synthesizers, DJ, controllerism, all of that stuff, all the culture of it, whatever you like. It doesn't really matter. So let's, without any further... Oh, actually, before I go, I want to say thank you very much to Isotope. They will be providing the prize for this week's competition. You can win a copy of Ozone 8, their brilliant mastering suite of plugins. Anyway, so let's say hello. Let's start with Steve Hillier. We haven't seen him for a while. SteveHillier.net. Steve is a producer, educator, musician, songwriter, one-time member of 80s or 90s. I'm just trying to think. Was it 80s or 90s? 90s. It was 90s.
Was mid to late 90s as well.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Anyway, how are you, Steve?
Dubstar.
Yes, Dubstar, of course. How are you?
No, I'm good, thanks. I just sort of come back from a few sort of foreign trips, which is why I haven't been around here for a while. And it's been nice to get back to the UK and have a whole sort of bunch of things that come in my absence, if you know what I mean, kind of projects and stuff. So
so work happened in the meantime. Excellent.
Yeah. It's sort of, sometimes it kind of happens like almost by osmosis. That's what I rely on, I suppose. So no, all things are good here. Thanks.
Excellent. Well, glad to hear it, Steve. Thank you very much for joining us. And I will also head over to Mr. Gaz Williams, bass player, producer, mastering guy, music technologist, over in here, where he's been tweaking the color balance and the gamut of his webcam, and is looking particularly well formed today with his video quality. How are you, Gaz? You well?
Yeah, good, thank you. Just want to apologize for anyone who's waiting for the lawn the album, because thank you so much. A lot of people responded and bought the album, which I was so pleased about. That's Asteroid Deluxe. But we had a little bit of a dilemma. See what you think about this. We are doing this limited edition release, and we're signing, all 4 band members are signing these little certificates. But Helen, our keyboard player, is on tour. She plays with Crippled Black Phoenix, which is quite a big band, certainly in Europe as well. And she's on tour at the moment. She doesn't get back until the middle of this week. And we had all these certificates signed by 3 of the band and not the 4th member. And we're going, well, what do we do?
That's how rumours start.
Do we forge a signature on the certificates? And then we just thought, if we thought that's so just totally wrong thing to do, it's wrong. So if anyone's waiting for them, that's the reason. There's a bit of a delay because we want to be authentic.
That's a very good reason. Anyway, Gaz, thank you for sharing that with us, and I appreciate that, and as I'm sure with the people who've ordered. Also, Mr. Rich Hilton, Hiltonius.com, keyboard player with Chic and studio guy with Mr. Nile Rodgers. How's your week been, Rich? You busy back at the studio doing waxing hotties, as we like to say?
Oh, I'm waxing hotties, all right.
Always sounds a bit lascivious the way you say that, Rich.
Yeah.
It's not meant to be.
I just love to hear you say that. I'm good, thank you.
Excellent. I think that phrase goes back to sort of the 1920s and 30s when hip jazz musicians used to say they were going into the studio and they'd cut it to a wax cylinder. Obviously, we're not doing so much of that these days. At least I'm pretty sure in Rich's productions that's not the case. So anyway, we'll move on and start talking about some stuff. There's a few items of news today. Actually, maybe we should start with the news of Cakewalk. This is rather sad. Cakewalk, this broke kind of yesterday, or at least came into kind of public domain yesterday. On the 17th of November, Gibson, who are the owning company, decided to kind of cease product development and effectively are closing down the company. And sadly, that means, a bunch of software engineers and various other support staff and people involved in the whole thing. Jimmy Landry, who was a great guy, who also, I guess, are going to be out of work and looking for work. So if you've got anything for them, great. But it's a sad thing. I mean, Cakewalk's been around since, well, it does say 30 years on their website. So, I mean, that's an exceedingly long time for any kind of, and we were only talking the other day about Cubase 9.5 and how long in the tooth that was and how it was amazing. And it just seems very sad news that it's not possible. Of course, Sonar was their main product. In terms of DAWs, they had a number of other software instruments that worked across platforms, because Sonar, for the time being, was only PC, although Mac was in development. And I don't know, Rich, I know that Sonar was kind of, they're an American company, and it was kind of, I guess, bigger in America. I mean, is that something, I guess you've always been a Mac guy, but I mean, big company really, aren't they?
Yes, and I've been variously interested in their product, and I have worked in the PC world as well, quite a bit, not quite a bit, but somewhat. And they made one of the premier products for a very long time. But when they sold first to Roland, and then I guess Roland probably sold them to Gibson, you could sense that once they left Roland, it wasn't looking good. Because Gibson has unfortunately developed a reputation of being the place where software goes to die. And I think it's an unfortunate reputation. And I think every time I believe they go into it with the best of intentions.
I'm sure. Really well, they did.
I don't think they're like sinking companies, like some sort of Gordon Gekko Wall Street scenario where they have anything to gain whatsoever by like turning the people at Cakewalk into people who are unemployed. I don't see any reason why Gibson would invest in companies like Opcode, Overheim, and now Cakewalk, and then like deliberately let them fail. I think that they entered these things with the best of intentions, and unfortunately, some things don't work out very well. And so far, they haven't made much of an impact in the software business, as far as I know. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but Gibson is probably still making almost all their money on guitars.
Yeah, I'd imagine
and
so.
And that's a tough business these days too, because people don't want to play guitar anymore. On a statistical, some people do. I do, but on a statistical basis, the guitar business is way down apparently compared to what it once was. And there's all quotes by famous guitarists about it. But anyway, Very sad for the guys who work there and for the people who are really dug in about this product is the first thing. And the second thing is it's a reminder that you can't get too dug in about any of these things. And you got to be willing to work with what you got right now. Because I have seen platforms come and go my whole life. And that thing you've spent the last 15 years honing your skills on could go away. And then you've got to hone those skills on something else, and you'll do fine. And I've switched platforms a few times in my life professionally, and it's always a little bit painful at first, but not for very long. And generally speaking, you're still getting done what you want to get done. So I'm very sad for the people who work there and the people who've invested in their software, because it was good software. And they can continue to use it the way it is, but you're basically planting a flag in a certain computer rev and in a certain software rev.
Yeah.
That's my take.
That's true. I mean, and also they released a statement to say that the servers and stuff are going to be online. So any kind of cloud-based or online content you've got is still going to be available, but it would be wise to consider what you might want to do with that. And if you can work with it offline, try and get it offline, just as a security matter, because obviously I think there's an online registration or authorization aspect to it that they might do well to possibly update in the last software revision, which might remove that, so that if the servers do go down, people aren't left with it. I don't know, Steve. I guess you're also a Mac guy, but I mean, it's always sad when I mean, this is a big established platform, really, isn't it?
Yes, that's absolutely right, and yeah, it is sad. I can tell you that unfortunately, for the purposes of this conversation at least, never really used this product. It's never really entered my world because I've been a Mac guy. I kind of went from Atari straight to Mac, and now I'm still working in a Mac and Linux world. But although I don't know whether this applies directly to Gibson, but it's just a thought that I have generally about stuff like this. When a software package the development has ended, wouldn't it be a nice thing if the corporations would release the patents that they might have within that product? Do you know what I mean? So if they may hold, and again, I'm not talking specifically about Gibson here at all, but they may hold the rights on, certain innovations that they couldn't turn into a profitable business or profitable product, that rather than hang on for 20 years and try to get licenses from other companies, license royalties, I should say, that instead what they would do is they would kind of release this product to the world, into the world for the common good. And maybe I'm being naive here, but just imagine if the source code for these products was now released. Now that would be a remarkable turn of events, which I think would be ultimately very positive. And also it would maybe help as Rich was just saying, it might help the people who will now need to transition to a different platform, if actually other developers could take this over and keep the platform alive maybe for a few years longer, or turn it into something else, rather than Cakewalk essentially dying,
ceasing to exist. Yeah, no, that's very true. I mean, I think I don't know whether there's anything like a management buyout or sale of assets to maybe another company in the offing, but I mean, in the past, Gibson have been pretty hard-nosed about the business side of things. Yeah. I mean, maybe for good reason, I don't know. I mean, I don't know enough about them, but well,
I can tell you. Yeah, sorry, I can tell you from my own experience of working with software developers and other things associated with that, it's kind of known these days that the real value is in the patent. So if you just happen to have picked up the patent somewhere along the line for something that then turns out to be a key component of a new app that might be released this year or next year or whatever, everybody kind of knows that generates a big windfall for a company, and so there's no real incentive to give up these patents, which is why I was saying before, maybe I'm being a bit naive here, but I think this sort of opens us up into the wider world of what patents should cover, if you know what I mean, especially in the software world.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, I think the massive amount I mean, I don't know what sort of cash exchanged hands for the transfer of those properties into the company, but you could imagine it would be hard to give up. I mean, I suspect maybe there could be a vehicle whereby they set up like a trust, and so that people can. there could be a management buyout, or people could work on it if they wanted to. But if anything ever came of it, and there was a windfall with that license stuff, then Gibson would get a kickback at some point in the future at a predetermined amount. I mean, that's the sort of thing. Anyway, but that's getting into all sorts of kind of mergers and acquisition stuff. I know it is sad though, isn't it, when a kind of major platform goes? I mean, imagine if it was one of the big ones that perhaps, maybe Mac-based platform that we all use. I mean, imagine if Ableton or Steinberg or one of those guys went. I mean, it would just be catastrophic. And it probably wouldn't happen though, I suppose.
But I mean, the first hard disk recording software I ever used was Cakewalk 4 back in about 1996. Which so I spent a good few years, actually, about 3 years or so with Cakewalk, largely because it was one of the first out of the door that could just work with I was using like a Turtle Beach sound card in a PC back then. So I am really sad. Yeah, old school. I am sad about this news. And it's I did hear a rumor though that Gibson are owing ridiculous amounts of money, and and that Gibson themselves could go bust in April or so, something. Just
allegedly
unsubstantiated rumors, but yeah. So I mean, if that happened, so it did get me thinking. I noticed Pete Ruckus in the YouTube chat said about Microsoft being a good candidate to buy Cakewalk, and you kind of go, well, they could do like Logic then, couldn't they, and just give like sort of Sonar or whatever built into like some home version of Windows, like Apple did with GarageBand, and acquire all of that assets and just sort of then use it as a way to lure some of the creatives over to the Windows platform.
That isn't a bad idea at all. And I mean, I suspect that there's probably something like that going on at Windows already, and if it could kind of jumpstart it, then that would make an awful lot of sense. Because I mean, that is, it's the smart move, isn't it, really?
Well, I mean, some people might disagree with this, but Logic has certainly, thrived under Apple, hasn't it? I mean, and it's one of the major platforms these days. So, they could. That's an interesting thing there. And it is. I mean, it is sad if it comes to an end. I mean, all of that lineage. I mean, it's interesting because if you use Sonar, I remember last time I took a look at Sonar was a few years ago, because it was the first to support multi-touch on a laptop, so that's that was a major first for them.
Well, they still were only one of two. I mean, only Bitwig does now, I think. Bitwig and them, they were first. I can't remember the name of the Skyfall, or there's some kind of technology, but as with many things, the DAW innovation goes in cycles. Cubase, Steinberg really up their game, like maybe 12 months ago, and we're really doing it now. There may be stuff from Ableton, so it goes like that. And Sonar had their moment as well, but and I don't know if it wasn't enough, or I guess if you're only working on a PC platform, then you're cutting out quite a lot. But there is or has been a Mac port in development with partners code, so I don't know if that's going to happen.
Well, that was the thing, though, that I found coming to Sonar, having not used it for a while, and sort of when it was Cakewalk, it was always very Windowsy, though. The whole kind of, like, when you click on a track window, the whole interface really had a Windows feel about it. Did you see what I mean? I mean, it was more than, it hadn't really, like Ableton with a complete graphical makeover. It still had sort of Windowsy look about it. And it still was, right until the most recent version that I saw. It still had that sort of Windows. So I don't know if that's something about its popularity, that if it was maybe a little bit more, I don't know, a bit more computery, a little bit less skeuomorphic.
Maybe so. I mean, but anyway, I mean, it is kind of sad, and we do hope, obviously, if indeed the company isn't going to be, the assets aren't going to be sent somewhere else, and maybe someone will pick it up and take the engineers and various other staff with them, which would be the best scenario. Then all of those people, we obviously wish them well in, what they're going to have to do now, because I think that's the other thing in the States. It's like when things stop, or there's a kind of, you could just sack people, you can let people go right away. Whereas I think in the EU, there's a much more sort of structured and it's more difficult, which is not necessarily a good or a bad thing. I don't know, it's just tough, really. Anyway, So what's the time? Yeah. So there's another thing. Did anyone see this Swan file sharing thing as well? This is a new thing. Swan.audio launched a new file sharing thing aimed at audio professionals, which is actually kind of cool because what it does is it allows you just to upload a file. I think I've got the screen here. Yeah, here we go. You just add a file, give it a title, subtitle, email it to various numbers of people. You can make it just downloadable, just download and play, or just play only with a little message. It lives there for 7 days and then it's gone. And they've kind of, I think what they've done is they've got back-end servers that will kind of give you the best possible audio bandwidth and rendering for, you know, your connection. It plays on pretty much, it worked on my Android device. It works on pretty much everything. So it's a very easily accessible thing. Not so much, I mean, Dropbox is fine for that sort of stuff too, but you end up in the situation sometimes when you're trying to manage and can think, oh, does that still need to be in the folder? It just seemed like kind of a cool thing. I don't know. And the player is here. There we go. It's just a very simple thing. You just hit play, and that's a track that I sent to you guys, by the way, actually.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it.
so do you well, two things. Steve, do you think that it's required? I mean, because you know, SoundCloud, as we know, is SoundCloud, and it's a separate thing. But this feels like it could be it's filling a little bit of a niche. I mean, it's essentially a bit of a dressing of existing technology, but it seems to me they might have pitched it right.
That's right. I mean, when I first looked at this, I was sort of thinking this is a solution looking for a problem, and I kind of thought, well, you know, often when I thought in these ways, I've been missing something obvious. So I thought about it for a bit longer, and I realised that the first of all, it's extraordinary that this is free. So I don't think it's fair to be, you know, too critical. But I rather like the idea that the files would expire after 7 days. I mean, that's not going to stop anyone who really wants to record this file using something like Audio Hijack to get a copy of the file. But it's nice if you know, have a certain amount of confidence to know that if you're sending over a demo mix or a rough mix or just a version for comment, that it's not going to be trivially easy for somebody to just copy that file and keep it forever. So I rather like that. And then looking into the amount of platforms that they've put their own platform onto, so iOS and all that kind of thing. That did also sort of answer the question of, well, you know, normally I listen to mixes in my car or on headphones walking down the street, or a whole load of different situations just to make sure they're okay. And that seemed to cover that rather well as well. I've got to say, I think that given that it's free, I think it could be, you know, quite a nice thing to use. And I think moving things around on Dropbox is fine. I do it all the time, but maybe there's like an extra, I don't know, level of professionalism with this. I don't know.
It feels like it's
designed. Try it out.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've used it. I sent files to Charles Reeves for him to check out, and I've sent one to Gaz, and I've, you know, and also I can upload it here, and then I'll have a quick listen to that on my phone in bed, you know, just check that mix on my headphones or whatever. It's kind of handy. I know, Rich, I know you have in the past. I mean, you know, the thought of cloud storage for kind of sensitive audio material hasn't really floated your boat, but this as a sort of functional.
I use it all the time.
Sure.
I use it all the time in various forms. And this, in my view, is a nice, fancy piece of creative interfacing that, as Steve points out, is free. And there's a world of people out there, not like us, who haven't spent years managing different kinds of cloud-based distribution systems for various purposes, both in terms of whole sessions or just putting up individual files or whatever. And this makes the process incredibly easy for a bunch of people who don't want to know about that stuff or don't already know about that stuff. And it allows them to very easily do a bunch of things that a lot of people need to do a lot. So I think it's cool. It's just a fancy piece of interfacing to me because everything it does can be easily done already. It just isn't as simple as they provide it in the way that they provide it. So it's cool.
Yeah, I agree. I must admit, I was initially skeptical because I was thinking, oh, what's this? Because it's just literally, you go to a page, it's like sign up, and then you can use it. And it is free. You've got a 2 GB file limit per file, I believe. You can upload like multiple, so you can upload a set of stems or a set of tracks, or, you know, and it doesn't have to just be audio, so it can be used to that. And I did test it with when you click, I only want it to be playable. And I did try, and I looked in the source code and saw what file it was doing, and then tried to access that file, and it just went, nah, you can't have it. So, I mean, I'm sure, you know, expert hackers might be able to do that. I don't know, guys, what do you think? I mean, it seems pretty seamless, right?
Yeah, I like this. I mean, for the work that I do a lot of mastering. I just like, I use WeTransfer all the time as opposed to Dropbox, just because I like to get the download receipt. That's the main reason why, but also the fact that it expires, and it means that, you know, it's, I don't know, it means you want to get things working, you want people to get feedback to you, so, you know, to get that receipt is really important. Is there a receipt function with this, do you know?
Well, when you've uploaded a file, you get an email with the link to the thing, and then if you've downloaded it, I noticed like you just downloaded that file, it tells me that you then downloaded that. Yeah, I did. I got a receipt, and it said that you downloaded the file.
This is perfect. The thing I'm confused about is, what's their business model then? Because like with WeTransfer, there is a business model to go to the WeTransfer Plus or whatever, and you know, have customized downloads, etc., and bigger file sizes and whatnot. Do they have that with this?
I was thinking that as well. I can imagine. I mean, you need to sign up. So if you sign up, you're adding yourself to a database of people who are using it for audio. So you've got a very niche kind of mailing list, which I wouldn't object to if I'm getting a free service, you know, and they go, oh, by the way, we've teamed up with so and so. You know, there's a special offer here. So it may be, or it may be that there's another tier, another level that maybe, you know, you can have unlimited storage possibly in the cloud. I don't know. You know, it's not hard.
And each one is a download can be up to 2 gigabytes, and that can be multiple songs. Is that right, or can it just be
multiple
one song
files
up to a 2 gigabyte? Multiple
I think
files
each
up
file,
to a maximum of 2.
I think I'm not sure. Actually, to be honest, it's not
each file
clear.
was 2 gig, wasn't it?
Each file, yeah. Let me just see. I'd have to double check that, whether it's
2 gig limit,
whether it's a 2 gig limit for an upload, whether however many files, or per file. I suspect it might be per file, because certainly in some sort of file-based systems, depending on what they're using at the back end, I mean, imagine they're using like everybody else, probably Amazon cloud stuff. I think I don't think there's a 2 gig limit there, but it might be on certain file systems. 2 gig is the maximum size. But yeah.
Well, I think it's you know, I mean, I'd like to know what the business model is, other than just being on the mailing list, before I would fully you know, adopt it as a way to work. But for me, and the way I work and the way I use WeTransfer, I think this could be. I love that way that you've got the player, rather than having to download it, unzip it, or whatever you would do with WeTransfer. It's much more immediate, and if you want to just get the client just to kind of get some feedback. I often work remote with mastering. Remember, everyone, send your masters to me. Plug. Well,
that's why I sent it to you.
I do that a lot.
I was hoping for some free advice.
Yeah, I will. I'm looking forward to it. I think it does look like a really handy system. So yeah, I mean, other than my skepticism about their business model, I think I definitely would want to use this. Yeah.
Yeah, you just go. It's basically, if I just go here, it goes to, you just go to swan.audio, and that's it. Swan.audio will kind of, and you can log in, sign up, and all that. If you're not logged in, you don't get to see this straight away. Rich, did you have something to add?
Right.
Just that for distribution in general, my favorite is box.com.
Okay,
not Dropbox,
I'm not aware of that.
None of that, but box.com. To me is so far superior to the others. I have like a ton of them. You know, Gobbler, iCloud, Google Drive. I've got tons of them, and box.com is my favorite.
Oh, I've not tried that. Well, thank you for the tip. We'll check that out.
And you can do all of this. You can do all, I mean, it's more complicated as an interface insofar as you can do a lot more than what you do with just this service. But, and I'm not in any way comparing it to this service, because like I said earlier, it's good for people who don't want to do this other stuff. But box.com is a great place to organize your files. Yes, people can play it right off their server without having to download it. You can create various levels of security. It doesn't go away unless you ask it to go away, which is for me a great benefit, actually. So I like it, and I just wanted to make that. They don't pay me, but I wanted to say that.
No, that's fair enough. Oh, I've just had the exciting news that our new video machine has been shipped. So yeah, we just updated we're updating our. We've been running this is a moment running on an old Mac 8-core Xeon, and it's just not fast enough to render this kind of HD video stuff, and it means that this system should be absolutely flying. So yeah, those who are interested, we went for an X299 motherboard and a 8720 chip. Which means, because you get the motherboard right, and it means that you've got loads of places. We bought one of the cheaper chips, but we could spend up to $2,000 just on the CPU. You know, if in future we decide we need more grunt, we could go to an i9. Anyway, but that's quite exciting. So that means tomorrow I can mess around with it. Anyway, after that, let's go to a little message from one of our sponsors. Well, this is Ozone 8, Isotope's Ozone 8, which is the de facto really for mastering, if you're into that kind of stuff, or track processing, that sort of thing. Features Master Assistant, which helps you set up if you're kind of starting a mastering or a session product and you need to kind of go, well, you narrow it down, and it gives you some kind of indicators of where to start, which just purely indicators, suggests the chain, suggests the thing, and that's done by the machine learning stuff. It's very smart. It thinks about the audio and kind of analyzes it and goes, this is what I think you need, and then you can take it from there. We've also got the tonal balance control, which is what you can see, which is available in the advanced, which gives you a graphical representation of the sort of roughly what each frequency band should be within the bounds of to achieve the sort of sound that you're after. You've also got the track referencing, whole folder of tracks, whatever, very easy to do, and also spectral shaping and the ability to tweak other instances of Neutron 2 and Ozone within the same session from the same plugin window. Lots of very powerful stuff to get you a sort of real smarter mastering experience or just processing experience. If you want to check it out, you want to go to isotope.com/ozone. We'll get you there, and as ever, they've got a fully functional demo, which I think is limited to 8 or 10 days. Well worth checking out. Anyway, I want to say thank you very much to them for sponsoring the show by adding a prize this week. And we've last week we ran the competition, and the winner this week is a chap called Bartel Hogard, who he's often in the chat room, and I often see him entering the competition, and it just so happened that his was tweeted this week and it was picked, which was awesome. So Bartel Hogard, he tweeted control and mastering master with Ozone 8 and so well done, Bartel. You have now won a copy of Ozone 8, and please do get in touch. Great. And we will pass you on to the folks at Isotope, who will provide you with the prize. And of course, we've got another prize this week, which is again Ozone 8 Isotope, and we're looking for the hashtag intelligent mixing. That's one word, intelligent mixing, and the hashtag Ozone 8. You need to be on Twitter to enter this. The hashtag intelligent mixing, one word, the hashtag Ozone 8 with ozone and 8 on the end, to @Sonicstate and @Isotope Inc. That's intelligent mixing and Ozone 8 to @Sonicstate and @Isotope Inc. And you'll be entered for the competition, and you can enter away. And once again, we thank you all for entering, and the stream of mentions that gives both us and also Isotope, because I know they watch it, and they're obviously very pleased. So awesome. So let's get on to a bit of this. This was kind of interesting. Let me see if I can find the window I was looking for. This was basically a gig. Let's see if I can find this. If it'll play. Hello? A gig on, I might have to refresh that. That's annoying. Let me see. It hasn't played. That is frustrating. Here we go. Let's play this. This is on a subway in Copenhagen. This is the promoter Strom and the DJ Anastasia Christensen. Basically, they rigged up a subway train and just did a DJ set in it. And obviously has power outlets because they've got speakers up here and the whole train. Let's see if we get it. There's a few clips. It's like a 25-minute journey. Just got a little setup there, and it's obviously banging. I just thought, what a great idea for your commute. You could have, like, because normally you have the quiet carriage. You could have what is entirely the opposite of the quiet carriage, which is the party carriage. And I just thought, what a great idea for starters. And oops, hold on, that's not supposed to happen. It's banging techno. Excuse me. I'm going to come to you first, Steve, because you DJ, and this raises two questions. A, what a great idea, and B, where's the weirdest place you've ever done a DJ gig?
Oh man. Well, I mean, I was thinking about this earlier, and I was just thinking, how many stories have I got that actually are suitable for broadcast? But no, I think I'm quite familiar with the subway in Copenhagen because I go there quite a lot, and this is perfect. There's a real sort of atmosphere of safety, if you know what I mean. Copenhagen, just the subway's open all night, and it doesn't surprise me that something like this could work really well there. But where's the strangest place that I've DJ'd? Well, I mean, not so much strange. I suppose being involved with with the DJ scene as I was very young in the late 80s and early 90s, got into quite a few scrapes with putting on parties in places that we weren't supposed to put on parties. And so there was one situation where we ended up getting stranded on a boat out in the North Sea, with a skipper who refused to basically steer or captain the boat. What it was, there was a bunch of us who was DJing, including an old school friend of mine who ended up being Dizzy Rascal's manager, which is an aside. But we took all our vinyl onto the boat. I'm expecting to have like a huge party, and we got out into the entrance of the Tyne up in northern England, and out there the water starts moving just as like you're at sea. So if you can imagine, you've got a vinyl record on, it's going the whole time. Oops. And of course, this meant that the DJs, including myself, we couldn't do what we were trying to do. You can't mix like that. And so we were kicking off. The guests on the boat were kicking off. The captain was getting annoyed that people were smoking on his non-smoking boat. But this was 1991, and it was Newcastle. Everyone was smoking, so we got out beyond the harbour walls into the North Sea, and the skipper just basically refused to do anything. We were essentially lost at sea for about an hour and a half until everybody calmed down. And then when we got, he took us eventually back to near the Tyne Bridge, to be met by a whole load of harbour police who essentially didn't arrest me, but arrested a couple of people for breaking some sort of maritime law that we had no idea of in advance. So that's one story.
That's just one. So are you saving the rest for the book then, Steve? Yeah.
Well, the thing is, there's been so many stupid run-ins with the police, not for nothing, for anything horrible, but just the naivety of being young DJs. Just opposite where OMD are playing tonight in Gateshead, there's a hotel called Malmaison in Newcastle, and about a year previous to this being lost at sea, me and a friend of ours broke into that building, which had previously been like a hotel, but decades before hadn't been used, and we set up a 10K rig on the top floor of that building. And if you can see it, or there's plenty of pictures on the web of this building, it's about I don't know, 7 stories high. So it's Malmaison in Newcastle, so it's a hotel chain, and it's directly opposite the Sage and the Bridge up in Tyneside. So it took us about an hour and a half to move a 10K rig up on the top of this building and start. Yeah, that's the one. And then so we got this going for about an hour, playing banging tunes, and then of course the police showed up, which was kind of inevitable. But it meant that they were very keen on shutting us down immediately and getting rid of the 100 or so people on top of this derelict building. But interestingly, none of them wanted us to help us move our equipment downstairs, which
they chose not to confiscate it in that particular instance, because there was a lot of that going on.
They were pretty friendly at this point, and I made the point to them that we're really sorry, we're only young, and this isn't our equipment. We've hired it in. Please don't cause any more trouble. I think actually the fact that I had a middle class accent sort of meant that they knew that I wasn't a wrong one, and so they let me off essentially.
Wow. Excellent. Well done. Thanks for that. That's a great story. Gaz, I'm guessing you're probably having to flick mentally through this massive Rolodex of weird gigs. But first of all, great idea, gig on a subway. I think that's a brilliant idea, because the commute is often a strange phenomenon, isn't it? It's not the sort of thing, you don't make eye contact, you don't really interact, whereas this is completely the opposite. I like that.
So I think in this story, is it though it was part of a festival? So the people who were taking the train are people who are at the festival. Is part of, is that right?
Yeah, I suppose so. It wasn't like just a set of random commuters.
Right. Right. Oh, that's a shame.
Good.
That'd be amazing, wouldn't it? Really, I think that would make it more cool, especially if they got loads of people off their bonces as well, just on the way into work. You know, just what difference that would have across the whole day. You know, sort of just what kind of chaos and brilliant things would all happen. But anyway, yes. Weird gigs. Yeah, I'm just trying to think what gigs I do that don't qualify as being weird. Gosh. Oh God, so many weird ones. Really cool gigs used to happen. I don't know if you've ever been to the Shunt. There was a place called Shunt in London, and that was these old railway Victorian era sort of like railway stores, I guess, you know, where they could hold carriages, and it was underground. It's underground where the Shard is now, so I think it all got maybe demolished, or maybe did. I don't know quite what happened to it, but it was by there. And the best bit about that, though, was the entrance to get into this club. There wasn't any sign saying it was a club. It was just like an anonymous door in London Bridge tube station. So you'd go.
It's a bit like
door,
a bit like Harry Potter.
Yeah. This is just a little door, and you used to go into it, and it was this whole network of tunnels. And what would happen is there would be a different event. Well, it was like a long main shaft, and it wasn't lit at all, so it was all dark, and then perpendicular tunnels coming off, and then there would be different events going on down each of the tunnels. So you'd wander through this darkness and find these really interesting little things going on. So I did a number of gigs there. A place called Shunt. That was superb. That was. But then, you know, those things are great, I think, partly because they are a transitory moment in time, and I don't know how sustainable. Although I think it was there for a while. But yeah, it was most peculiar, though, because when an event would go and a lot of people would just start amassing around this anonymous door, you know. But once you were in, it was a real kind of super cool party. I nearly said a super swinging party, but it wasn't one of them.
I'm glad.
But yeah, although
worth traveling to London for, I suppose. Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Whatever went on in those dark tunnels, yeah.
Who knows? Yes, well, that's interesting you mentioned that, because that reminded me. Sorry, Rich, if I just jump in there. I probably told this story before, but the first one, the dark tunnels thing. I remember going to a warehouse party in London, somewhere around King's Cross area, Camden's King's Cross. And some friends of mine organised it. They used to live in a squat in, I think it's Abbey Green, which was near Upper Street. And it was pitch black. But what they did is they put UV lights and just spread washing powder along the floor, because the washing powder would light up super bright, and it would sort of show you the way that you had to go. That was one clever thing.
Brilliant.
And the weirdest gig I ever played was in I can't remember the name of it. It's a sort of giant transport storage hub in East Berlin. I've probably told the story before, where I turned up with a 10-piece funk band, and the PA was delivered, and it was just dropped in the middle of this. Honestly, it's so big you couldn't even see the edges, just full of these dusty old kind of 1950s East German clonking buses with a sort of space in the middle, and the PA was just sort of dumped in the middle. It wasn't set up or anything, and I had to set the PA up in this space that had, I don't know, 40 seconds of reverb at full bandwidth. I mean, it was just a complete disaster, as you can imagine, and the PA, the power went down, all those sort of things. But that was real. I mean, it was very memorable, but at the same time, extremely terrifying as being me in front of a house. Rich, over to you,
Nick. Well, 9 times out of 10, I'm not your guy for the party on the subway train. But if it's just for a transport to and from a festival, I sort of think it's cool. I think that's fun, because you're just kind of kicking the party up early, and that's all good to me. And as for weird gigs, there are just so many. I don't know if it would be helpful. I mean, the one that springs to mind, I don't remember why, but Chic played a Grammy party some years ago in Los Angeles, a few years ago. And it was a half-hour set behind a posh hotel on Sunset Boulevard, and it was a hard half-hour set. And we had our whole, band set up and everything. And first of all, it starts drizzling. Now, I don't know if you've ever spent much time in Los Angeles, but it doesn't rain there. Period. It's the opposite of Ireland. It's like, no, it doesn't, or England. It's a desert. So we've learned now that the way to get it to rain in Los Angeles is put Chic on a stage outside with no roof on it. So we're out there playing this gig, and it kicks off about, 5 or 7 minutes late. And we get to 11:30 p.m. and literally there is a police officer standing damn near next to me at the side of the stage, looking across the stage at Niall. And Niall is like being his friendly, jovial self and, talking to the audience about how, we're up against a hard deadline. And he was talking, but I'm sure, they'll let us do just one more. And the officer's looking at him like, And no, we were done. We were done at that moment. We were leaving. It was done. It was over. It wasn't. They didn't pull a plug in the middle of a song, but we were done.
Did Niall have to come up with some sort of spur of the moment musical ending?
No, you weren't playing another note. You were getting out of there.
Oh, really? Kidding. Just sort of like, wow, arrested.
No.
Oh, that sounds like fun. I mean, there are many, aren't there? Because gigs by their very nature are chaotic, and quite often, they'll end up being sort of not what you expected. Stuff goes wrong, or the venue, which seems like a really cool. One of the coolest gigs actually I went to was at the Tivoli Ballroom in I think it's northwest London, which is a bona fide from the 1940s old school dance hall, velvet chandeliers. Absolutely beautiful. I mean, with a 50s bar on the side, and the people who run it are kind of old and decrepit, and it's just absolutely beautiful. And it was Goldfrapp, it was Alison Goldfrapp's birthday, and Goldfrapp played, and it was just an absolutely awesome. It felt so decadent. And there were these balloons everywhere, and that was a beautiful kind of event. But don't get to do those. I mean, mostly these days gigs are in sort of large concrete sort of sealed units with. Built for stadium kind of stuff, which is not necessarily arty and dramatic, which I guess why you have to have, amazing lights and, posters and all that sort of stuff to try and sort of make them a bit more vibey. But yeah, anyway, I like this one. I thought it was a good one. Okay, right. I guess we could probably, let's have a look. Which MIDI spec? Anyone want to talk about that? That was kind of a bit of a big one, really. This was the ADC in... The ADC in
quite easy to envisage.
Let me see if I can find it. Oh man, what's this? That's day 2.
Managed to convince a few or work with.
I don't know where it is.
This is an early
this is Ben Supper. That's right. I'm trying to find it. It's actually really hard to find because the video is kind of, as you can see, 6 hours and 39 minutes long. But essentially, Ben Supper is technical program manager at Rowley, and also the chair of the MPE working group. And he was sort of outlining some of the ideas for the forthcoming MIDI spec, which hasn't been set in stone. And I posted this, and I called it MIDI HD because that's what they mentioned in one of the slides. And I immediately got an email from somebody at MIDI going, "Oh no, you can't be calling it that." And it just seems like this is, the spirit of MIDI in the first place was so kind of inclusive and like, hey, look, can we not all get along? And they're just quibbling about these kind of little moments, little kind of technical terms or what have you. But the exciting part is, the idea of some of these, because I was wondering whether or not MIDI really needed updating. But when I saw some of the things they were talking about, I thought, actually, this is pretty cool. I know, Gaz, you and I both use MIDI extensively for all sorts of things. And, I think it's, as you know, a brilliant protocol, and something that probably will never be repeated in quite such the same way. But what do you want to see in the MIDI HD spec, or the MIDI Plus, or the MIDI 2.0, whatever they're going to call it?
I think what would be really cool is just to reserve 8 addresses for macros. So that could be like a standard that things could just all adhere to. So, because there's so many pieces of hardware that have got 8 control knobs on. And then if there was just like some sort of idea of a standard set of performance knobs, then manufacturers then could always if that just became like the default standard, I think something like that would be really helpful. That's not particularly exciting, but I think some sort of standardization. I haven't looked at this at all, Nick, I'm afraid.
No,
so
that's
we may
fine.
well be
Well,
talking about
let
this.
me just run a couple of the things that they've talked about. First of all was the MIDI inquiry thing, which is basically, I'm a MIDI device, I'm plugged into a MIDI thing, this is who I am, this is what I'm capable of. Okay, thanks for that information. I can use that for setting up whatever it may be. So that protocol, great idea. So protocol negotiation, profile configuration and parameter exchange. Note attached parameters would be another good one, particularly for MPE. So when you've got an event and you can kind of go, well, these controllers are attached to that particular event. Higher resolution, more channels, more controllers, bandwidth, simplification or eradication, more likely, of NRPN, because that is a nightmare. That whole thing. Yeah. Where for those of you who perhaps don't know, NRPN is when you combine the values of two controllers. So when controller 1 is at value 1, then all the registers in value 2 have a certain possibility. When it's at number 3, it's an absolute nightmare.
So much as it increase it. It increases the resolution, doesn't it, by, is it 4,092 steps or something like that with the NRPNs?
But it's horrible. It's horrible to use. So there's a few things. Rich, I mean, I'm guessing, does MIDI figure a lot in what you're doing? I guess maybe automation, but perhaps not so much in performance side of things. I don't know. I'm making a wild assumption.
I'm married to my freaking keyboard right here.
Oh, that's true. Of course, there's that.
I'm gobsmacked that you can transmit all that data via Bluetooth with seemingly no appreciable latency to my freaking phone or my iPad or any of that stuff, better than you can get it down a cable. So this is not surprising to me, and on some level I sort of understand it, because Rolly has got, and other people who are supporting MPE have this big idea, and everybody who tries it tends to fall in love with it, and then they find that it's kind of a pain in the ass to interface it with existing standards and get the kind of result you want, and it takes a lot of standing on your head. And so they want to standardize certain aspects of that situation so that the compatibility and the ease of use across all these MPE devices is easier in ways that the original MIDI spec didn't account for. And I think that makes a whole lot of sense. And I did watch a bunch of this guy's talk about it. And yeah, he does work for Rolly, but it all made sense to me. And I think it's cool.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think the idea of being able to, and also obviously, as I think Snurker in the IRC chat room said, it has to be number one priority, has to be backward compatible. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be are you MIDI 2.0 or MIDI 2.1? Okay, 1.0, fine, you'll work as normal. That's a big deal. I know, Steve, how about you? How do you feel about MIDI?
Well, I'm a big fan. I've used it really since the day it came out. And I think that before I say the things that I've been preparing to say about MIDI, I just want to recognize that I think it's been an incredible invention, and it's given us the music that we have today. I was sort of thinking that, in terms of the innovations in music technology, this is, one of the biggest by far. Having said that, there are a few things that I would like to see improved. I think the first one is, I don't know whether this was discussed in the conference at all, but can we have MIDI in and out on one cable? Do you know what I mean? That seems like such a simple thing to me. I know you can do this with USB, and of course the Bluetooth thing will do that, but sometimes you're on stage and you don't have a computer. Wouldn't it just be nice to have just one cable that does two-way communication? So that's a very simple little thing. But beyond that, a few things I mentioned down here. We've had General MIDI for a long time. I think it's probably fallen out of favor now. I mean, I haven't used it really ever, but certainly not in the last decade or so. But what about a General MIDI standard for things like controllers? Now, what I know that we already have controller MIDI number 1 is for modulation, and 7 is for volume, and all that kind of thing. So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about an expansion on that, where you have a whole load of extra designated controller numbers, but you also have a designated result. So what I mean is that if you, at the moment, if you send a controller message let's say you want to open up a filter cutoff somewhere, and you send a message of 64, you can't directly predict what the result is going to be at the other end, if you know what I mean. It could be that the filter half filter open and 2/3 of it. But what about having the controllers actually define exactly what the result is? Do you see what I mean? So it would mean that, for example, you would have number 1 kilo.
Oh, it's been doing so well.
That could be really,
sorry, Steve, you're
ways.
cracking up a little bit. I think I understand what you mean there, but your bandwidth just—I don't know what it is. Maybe one of your cohabitees is downloading large amounts of data or something. But you've just gone a little bit wobbly there. But all of those are very valid points. I think some of that is covered in the specification. One of them is more channels and more controllers, so you would have more designation. The other one is the parameter exchange and profile configuration, so that those things could be predetermined sets, feature sets that would work between instruments. They would tell each other what their capabilities are, and then therefore the one at the other end would know what it was doing, how it would work, all of those things. Am I thinking you're thinking about the kind of scaling of those parameters, whether it's logarithmic or whatever, the effect those parameters has at the other end, or is it something else you were discussing?
Nick, I'm not sure if you're talking to me. Something's happened with my Virgin connection here. So I
okay.
Get my gun out again.
Not Virgin.
Maybe you can hear me now.
Maybe it's not as I can now. maybe it's not as virginal as you'd hoped.
No. It's no. It's definitely effed. But anyway, there is just one other thing I wanted to throw in, just in case you lose me again. Something I'd really like to see in a MIDI protocol is everything being time-stamped.
Right.
So at the moment, with everything, the messages that we get, they just happen, if you know what I mean, and that's fine. But wouldn't it be great to cure, so many problems by having every time stamped, and maybe time stamped to an external clock of some kind? And I'm not talking about a clock like a word clock that you'd have in a digital studio. I'm talking about like an external clock that you would get across the internet. Hopefully, a better internet than mine. But that would mean. Then that, I think, would solve so many issues in itself. And just to go from one further from that, maybe if there was some way for the MIDI protocol to distinguish between live playing and playing that's being transmitted from a DAW, because timestamping would be a little bit less useful in live playing. But from a DAW, if every message had either a relative timestamp or an absolute timestamp, then you could solve so many timing issues all in one go. I think I've come to the end of my argument here, but that's what I want. So come on.
That's actually quite a good idea. I like the. I mean, didn't Electron do? There was more than one company have done kind of the idea of this time-stamped MIDI. You might remember that they didn't they do their own? It's like Turbo MIDI or something, wasn't it called, Gaz?
Turbo MIDI. Yeah. I don't know much about that though, but there's all the Electron boxes have the option to turn that on, don't they? I mean, so what I don't understand, and it'd be nice if this could clarify this then. So this is like an organization who determines what MIDI is the standard. Is this what
I think
happening?
They're the curators of the standard MIDI, or I think
curators of the standard.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that is an embrace, and they are embracing the kind of MPE standard, or they're trying. Is that part of it then? Is that To
be honest, I don't know. I'd imagine that's what the Rowley kind of interest is in that. I mean, this is the thing that Ben actually goes to great lengths at the beginning to say is like, look, we've got to align all of the people with vested interests. There are, over the years MIDI has existed, there have probably been billions of dollars, that much, yes, of R&D invested in getting this hardware to work using this standard.
And then like the lights people and all that, they're using MIDI, are they still?
DMX, yeah, it's similar. I think it's similar, yeah.
So they don't have to consider that then, or are they looking to improve? The reason why I'm asking that though is just that if it becomes like a wider protocol, that maybe that there is more sort of visual potential, or the blurring of the distinction between what is a video signal or what's an audio signal. I don't know. I'm just riffing.
Yeah, I know. I agree. I mean, I think there's a lot. I think that when I was at the We Are Robots conference, I might have mentioned it. I talked to Rupert Hine, very well regarded and old school kind of producer, lovely chap. And his role within the whole MIDI thing, he was like an envoy, a kind of old school diplomat, and his job was to go out and sort of schmooze and talk all the kind of manufacturers who were obviously trying to create their own standards into adhering to a single standard. And he obviously did a great job, and I'm sure there were more than just him. But he, you know, this is something that is clearly going to be much harder, because now there are so many more vested interests, so many more companies, and as we have always said with MIDI, one of the reasons it's so successful is because somehow they manage it's kind of like the WHO or something. They just kind of got together and made stuff happen for the greater good. You know, it's kind of and having that happen now with all the commercial interests is going to be very difficult, and that's probably more of a challenge, because everybody's going to have no, I don't want it to work like this because I've got something that I can't tell you about. You know, it's insanely complicated. But I really hope it's going to work out. And I think at NAMM there's going to be some sort of further step into the kind of the discussion of this next version of MIDI, and maybe some announcements. I don't know yet, but I'm hoping, and I was talking to one of the guys at MIDI.org, that we might get the opportunity to have an interview, do a kind of a podcast type special talking about this in greater depth, and just find out what's going on. Because I mean, it may seem fairly dull in IT, but it's the backbone, the cornerstone of kind of pretty much what most of us do, is particularly if you're using electronic music. You know, there is, you know, definitely it's hard to overestimate rather.
Nick, I'm assuming this topic's kind of run its course. There is a little piece of news I would like to mention regarding. Can I just show you this thing here? Ta-da!
Oh yeah, the sledge. Is it working again?
Oh
yes, I remember we were there.
the sledge, that if you've got a yellow sledge and you don't know about this, there's brilliant news for sledge owners that there's a 2.5.1 update that's just come out for it, and it changes it in a massively good way. One thing it does is it makes the second LFO it locks all the LFOs, so you can do tremoloes. Prior to that, it was just all the LFOs are free running, and with a 24 note poly, keyboard,
gets messy quick.
It gets messy very quick, although it's a lot of fun. So LFO2 now is all kind of locked. The LFOs are locked together, and that's a pretty cool thing. But the major thing is that the sound output has increased. In fact, it's now on parity with the black edition of the sledge. So but the big thing is that the sound has improved immeasurably. I think they said, and I don't know what this actually means, it says it's 100% peak output improvement, whatever that means. But what it translates to is, notably, it sounds fatter, it sounds thicker, it sounds, I mean, this could well be because it's just louder, but it's the whole tone of it has improved by a serious amount. So I was amazed. I thought, wow, brilliant. The fact that an update can change the sound to such a big degree. I thought it was worth mentioning if anyone out there has got one. So
thank you. Yeah, definitely. I guess they must be just being more efficient and utilizing the A to D better or whatever. But yes, I mean, you are right. That topic has run its course, and I think we're probably fairly close to the end. Did you see this? I don't know what this is, but I think it's pretty cool. This is something from Teenage Engineering. It's called R. And it's like a motor driven with a speaker in the bottom of it and some sort of LED. And it's like a dancing robot that responds to sound, I think. That looks like a meat grinder. As we'd expect with Teenage Engineering stuff. Nicely built.
It also will load up a sausage casing.
Yeah, nice. So then it'll do, this is what it does, apparently. So it's got LEDs.
Raven. Exceptionnel.
Yeah, it's one of those classic kind of, what the hell is that? But I think essentially it will articulate in rhythm with music, and the LEDs can do stuff, and it's just like a little dancing robot thing. I can't think of any reason why. I don't know when it's going to be out, how much it's going to cost. It's teenage engineering thing. It's probably going to cost a fortune. But Rich, can you have having one of those on the console while you're working on a groove, and if you can get it to kind of dance well?
2 of those. I need 2 of those, not 1 of those. 2 of those.
Dancing robots.
And can you lock them together like the LFOs and Gaz's synth?
I don't know. I hope so. That would be awesome, wouldn't it? But yeah. I don't know. What do you think, Steve? Checking your mixes to see how well the robot dances. I like the sound of that somehow.
No.
Okay. As a DJ.
No. It looks kind of fun. I'm going to wait until we actually know what this is.
Yeah, no, fair enough. It was. I just thought I'd throw it in there, really.
Exactly.
Well, I'm sorry to put you all on the spot like that, but thank you ever so much for joining us. It's been great fun as ever. Before we go, I just want to reiterate the competition. If you want to win iZotope's Ozone 8 mastering setup, then we're looking for the hashtag intelligent mixing, one word, the hashtag Ozone 8 at Sonicstate and at iZotope Inc. You need to tweet that to enter the competition. There'll be a winner announced next week. And so thank you, fellas. Thank you very much. Gaz Williams over there in Bristol, thank you for joining us. Been a pleasure as ever at the last minute. Also, thank you, Steve Hillier. Thank you for moving. And we definitely had better Wi-Fi apart from that weird glitch, but I think that definitely improves things better. What you need is a wire going upstairs to a little, so you can plug it in. That would be the ultimate solution. But I can't imagine you want to remodel your house.
Well, you say that. My other half has been talking about building a basement in this house. It's the sort of thing that people in London do, but we're in Brighton, and I think people in Brighton are a bit sceptical about removing the foundations of a Victorian building to put a basement in. Anyway, I'll get back to you on that one.
Sounds expensive. Thank you very much for joining us, though, Steve. And also, Mr. Rich Hilton, thank you again for giving up your time and joining us too. Thank you very much.
Pleasure is mine, as always.
Jolly good. And don't forget, actually, I forgot to mention, if you haven't check the YouTube channel. Gaz has posted a sort of pre-review of the new Trace Elliott Elf. And I can't remember what was the other thing called. Planet B?
Oh, the Transit B.
Transit B bass pedal. That is that's a 200. Is that 200 watt? 200 watt bass amp?
200 watt. Into 4 ohms. But and people have been asking for me to try some synths through it, so I will certainly do that. And I think if it's Trace Elliott, it should be a relatively clean sounding amp. So keyboards could sound really good through it. But I mean, it's so ridiculously small that I left my
oh damn! I forgot my bass amp. I left it at home. Yeah, that sort of thing could happen, couldn't it? It was in my other bag. It was in my other pocket.
A medallion.
Anyway, guys, so we're looking forward to that. And yes, you've been asking what's happened with the Roland S8 Boutique SH01A. I've nearly finished the review, and it will be online shortly. Anyway, that's it. Thank you very much for watching. We'll all see you next time as we wave off into the sunset. And thank you very much indeed. We'll see you next time. That was Sonic Talk, episode 514. Goodbye now. Thank you, folks. Hold on, let me just switch you all back on again so we can hear you all. Lovely. That was great. Thank you very much, everybody. That was good fun.
Thanks, Dick.
Thank you all.
Sorry I jumped in with that sledge thing there, Nick. I just thought it was of
cool.
Moderate interest, but it's definitely good for people who've got one.
Excellent. It looks like, I think, my video did go online. I can't tell. They've done something to the Facebook GUI, which is just dread. Oh, there we go. It did actually go on live. Anyway, thanks, folks. We'll see you next time. I can't wait. My new computer's coming tomorrow, and then I didn't go for an OS on it, so I got to install the OS, move all the programs across, all the MIDI configuration, all that stuff. Rich, sorry.
This weekend, I was invited to hear something by a designer from Nashville called Carl Tatz, who makes a control room design called the Phantom Focus control room. And I was invited to listen to one of his control rooms, and it was the most incredible thing I've ever heard.
Really?
Wow.
What speakers?
In this case, he was using the Neumann three-ways that the client was providing. He also has his own speakers that he uses. I've never heard anything like that in my whole life. I swear to God,
Wow.
It was the clearest, most coherent sounding thing I've ever heard.
Wow. Any DSP going on there? Was it?
That wasn't an orchestra sitting in front of me, for example.
Wow.
Yeah, there's DSP involved in the
Interesting.
tuning of the system and the low frequency. I said to him, I would have to get used to hearing it like this because it was so clear, but so full and not obtrusive on the mid-range. Like typically when you hear that much fullness in the low frequency, it's doing something to the mid-range that makes it a little less clear. This was not the case. And the space between the speakers was so clear and vivid. It was remarkable.
Wow.
I'm serious. I got to tell you, I've never heard anything like it coming out of speakers.
Have you heard the Key Audio Key 3 speakers?
I believe they're about to send me some to listen to. I haven't heard them. I've heard about them from people who I admire and respect greatly who swear by them. So
Yeah,
I'd like to hear that.
They do sound that
They're also $12,500 a pair.
Yeah.
So they better sound pretty good.
Mind you, cheaper than probably getting a new room design, but yeah.
No. Believe me, I'd rather have Carl take whatever speaker I have right now and make it sound like that than buy $12,000 speakers and hope for the best.
Yeah. I'd be really interested to know what you think of those speakers, actually, because I was really blown away by them, I must admit.
Yeah, I'd like to hear them, and people do tell me they're amazing. What I just got are Prime Acoustic recoil stabilizers, which are these fancy foam things that your speakers sit on that decouples them from the thing that they're actually sitting on. And they made a huge difference in my life. They actually really are fantastic. I'm very, very impressed by them.
I have to check that out.
What do you notice? What do you notice? What does it improve?
Imaging quality and clarity and tightness of the low frequency.
Cool.
That's interesting.
Mostly. Kind of similar to what I heard with Carl's design, except Carl's design is so much better.
Neat. Right. Well, I got to shoot now. I've got to go and pack this all up and start dismantling my computer to get make the space for it. So I'm quite excited.
Very good. Cool.
Okay. See you, folks. Thank you very much
Happy
once again.
Thanksgiving,
Thanks,
gentlemen.
Oh, yes, of course. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Yes, of course.
Enjoy
I forgot
your
about that.
turkey dinners, your turkey roast.
Not us.
Or Sunday roast on Thursday.
Yeah, not us. Is it Thanksgiving tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, yeah, of course, Black Friday. I'm going to be doing a Black Friday blog, as usual, see if I can. But everybody's gone too early. I've got so many deals to put in there that are lasting like 3 weeks. It's kind of, it doesn't feel quite the same somehow. Right. See you next time. Sorry.
Cheerio, guys.
Bye-bye, everyone.
All right. See you later. Thanks, folks. Bye.
Cheers, gents.
Cheerio, guys.